next disease. The same way it is that subconjunctival hemorrhages are not sight-threatening, keratitis is. Keratitis is precisely the opposite of the concept of the person who's got the subconjunctival hemorrhage. The subconjunctival hemorrhage stops at the limbus, doesn't go across the cornea, and consequently can't damage sight. It's cosmetic. You see it, it looks ugly, but it doesn't hurt you. It hurts your feelings, but it doesn't hurt your vision. Keratitis is the exact opposite. Keratitis affects the keratin of the cornea and damages up that cornea. And keratitis is an infection that's often herpetic. You mean herpes simplex, like the STD? That's the one. And keratitis, particularly from herpes, is amazingly sight-threatening. When you look at keratitis, what you're basically going to see on visual examination is nothing, because you can't see damage to a cornea because the cornea is so clear as to be invisible. So if you see damage to something that's invisible, you see damage to invisible objects. And invisible objects tend to be invisible. So therefore, the person will have pain, sight-threatening. Pain, sight-threatening, but nothing visible. So therefore, you have to apply a fluorescein stain. The fluorescein stain, visible in keratitis and conjunctival and corneal abrasions, fluorescein is a substance that binds to the keratin, to the collagen fibers. If you have normal corneal epithelium, here in green, it won't bind. Fluorescein only binds to the part of the cornea that has lost its epithelium. The epithelium has become denuded. The monolayer, generally 1 or 2 cell layers. Isn't that amazing? 1 or 2 cell layers covering the cornea of which your eyes can perceive? That's like our friend Rumi. He says, my heart is so small. How can this great love be inside of me? And Rumi says, look at your eyes. They are small, but they see enormous things. The same way, this one layer of cells that covers the cornea, if it's damaged, the fluorescein stain will stick and under fluorescent light will light up. But it only attaches if the corneal epithelium has been removed. The great thing about the corneal epithelium is if it's damaged from something like trauma, in other words, not an infection there, you can remove the entire corneal epithelium and it will regrow in 24 hours. If you have damage, such as trauma, it'll regrow in 24 hours and the entire cornea will re-epithelialize in 1 or 2 days. Now, the problem with herpes keratitis, infection of the keratin, is if you mistake it for a corneal abrasion or a uveitis. Uveitis is treated with steroids. And if you put steroids on herpes keratitis, you will make them blind. Hoy! Otra vez. If you put steroids on herpetic keratitis, you just put fertilizer on the herpes. Miracle Grow for herpes. And the herpes will wipe out the cornea and infect the whole thing. And you can cause blindness. Herpes keratitis gives if you look at the cornea from the top, herpes keratitis will give a dendritic pattern such as you would see with nerve cells growing in the brain, dendrites. On fluorescein staining, it will fluoresce. Fluorescein staining, I detect the herpes keratitis. The treatment for the herpes keratitis is the same as herpes anywhere. Acyclovir, famciclovir, valacyclovir, acyclovir, famciclovir, valacyclovir. And special topical substances that, remember you and I said on conjunctivitis, you can give topicals that if you put them into the body would otherwise cause immense toxicity. That is why herpes keratitis can be treated with topical medications that many of you will never have heard of before. Idoxuridine, trifluoridine. These are substances that if you never heard of them, I forgive you because they have one use and one use only. They are topical antiherpetic medications used for herpes keratitis, not for systemic use. Idoxuridine, trifluoridine. Herpes keratitis. 1. No steroids. Send you to a 12-step group for steroids. I admit I am powerless over steroids, and you should not use that. No steroids, you'll make them blind. Acyclovir, valacyclovir, famciclovir for extra bonus points and the brand new car and the deluxe home in Malibu. The treatment for acyclovir-resistant herpes is foscarnet. Acyclovir-resistant herpes, foscarnet for acyclovir-resistant herpes. Dendritic pattern, fluorescein stain for denuded epithelium. Don't use steroids, use acyclovir and topical trifluoridine. As you can see in certain of the images, it fluoresces, and the treatments are the topicals, and you often may not see the dendrites on normal visual examination of the eye. It may not be seen until you see the fluorescein staining. Trifluoridine, idoxuridine.